Hey everybody, Braden here. Welcome back to another episode of the King's Indian Attack speedrun. This is our first time playing against a 1400, which, you know, it's a big deal. We're getting up there in the rankings. Things have been passing by like crazy. And our opponent's kind of playing like a Sicilian type of position. Now we can't play e4. That's okay. We're just going to continue off with d3 here. I received a comment that, hey, I should probably play the position instead of, you know, go crazy like I did in the game previous to this. And I wanted to keep it fun, but I think, like, yeah, let's chill out a bit. Maybe let's relax and hope that we can get a similarly good position regardless. So I'm playing this normal setup. Pretty much you can almost, that's the key word, almost always play with this type of development in mind. I believe we can play c4 here if e4 stuff doesn't feel like it's in time. Because we can take it. And then I'm not sure. We could also go e4, see if they go for d4. I think both options are interesting, and again, generally I'm going to prefer playing the move e4 over d4 or c4. If we have like an equal chance, this is preventing them from playing e4. We've calculated things like this many times, and I still always spend a little bit of time on the move. And I think it's a good thing to do that because, you know, you gotta be wary of any of your opponent's threats. I believe maybe we could have gotten away with it, but I don't remember the complications. And I don't want this to be like a memory contest, right? Generally, hey, if we're playing like around the 1400 level, generally what I'll say is know your opening principles, follow your opening principles, and yeah, maybe know like a little bit of things like, you know, what to do against this structure, what to do against that one, things like that. But mainly it's about tactics and it's about positional understanding and tactical understanding, right? So I am aiming for kind of more of a simplistic view here. So they're trying to go crazy on me. I could go rook e1 to try to defend the pawn, or I could go c3. If takes, then I'd play bishop takes. That looks okay. I could also play knight takes. Maybe I can't because e4 might actually fall that time. So c3, takes, and I'll just take with the bishop and then take with the queen at the very end. And both sides lost their light squared bishops, so I don't really think that's the worst thing in the world. I could also play rook e1. But with the rook e1, I'm scared of takes, and then like queen takes anyways. Takes, and then knight takes e4. So those are the calculations you gotta do. So I'm just gonna play c3 and say, you gotta do something, dog. You gotta do something. So they're gonna take. Naturally. I don't see another move. If there is another move, then they're better than me. I guess they could move back, but that's not really... Yeah, I really do not think that that is correct. The thing is, you just wasted two moves. So look at this position, right? In this position, it is black to move, and they play knight d4. But in this position with knight d4, imagine we have c3 played, which prevents knight d4, and we have an extra move. So imagine we play c3 and queen e2. You would call us a cheater because we played two moves in a row, but no, our opponent actually just let us do that. So now after queen to e2, well, we have a lot more time than our opponents. Two extra moves, that's a big deal. That lets us play, again, queen e2 and maybe something like knight c4 and like bishop g5. And I think we really should like try to focus on the punishment here. So bishop e7, I'm going to go a4 to prevent b5. Generally, one of the plans that you should be worried about most whenever they play two pawns in the center versus your c3 versus e4, it looks like they have more space. And they could have more space, But generally, white's structure here should be preferred because you have control over d5 and they do not have control over d4. But instead, what you're going for here is... should we play h3? What you're going for here as black is trying to play c4 and then bring a knight to d3. So like knight d7, c4, knight c5, and knight d3. It's kind of like their dream plan. And a4 is generally a good move because it's harder to play c4 because b5 is hard to play. So knight c4 here, I'm a little worried of this pawn ever becoming a little loose. Because if we play knight c4 and try to go to e3, e4 will be hanging. We could always play bishop g5, just trade off that bishop, get rid of the bishop pair. Or we could go like h3 right now. h3, I think I'm okay with playing. It's kind of a totally okay move here. And yeah, I can play moves like knight c4 next. I don't need to go to e3. Okay, so they go bishop e6. And now I kind of want to go knight c4 to see if they take or if they go queen c7. Getting the bishop pair here looks like an excellent way to get an advantage. So I'm hoping for that. Queen c7 is kind of like the more expected move. But then I'm looking at things like knight takes e5 and some sort of like bishop f4. Knight takes e5 and then knight takes e5, bishop f4. There's bishop takes c4. Queen takes c4. It kind of looks like we're running out there a little bit. So let's not do that. Let's not go crazy. Instead, something like bishop g5 feels reasonable. And so does rook d1. And so does b3, funnily enough. b3 followed by bishop b2. I think I'll start with rook d1. Just getting the open file. And I got to be careful here. If they challenge it, I need to do something about the fact that both of these are being attacked. So I either have to move my knight, or I have to move my bishop to connect my rooks. Okay, so they're trying to go for b5. Which makes a lot of sense here. I wish I could go like queen c2. I wish my queen was on c2 instead of e2 here. Maybe I should have played that earlier. What about like knight g5 or knight h4? b5 takes, and then take... I'm not sure if I'm worried of them taking over that file, though. Maybe g4. Generally, you should only be scared of g4 if they get a knight on f4. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something controversial. I'm going to give them time right back by playing knight d2. And the idea of knight d2 is I want to go g4 and bring this knight over to f5. Because e3 is not really a safe square. We don't really want to play our knight to e3 or bishop to e3 where it loses connection with the e4 pawn. And this is actually why the queen on c2 is better. So I made I think a pretty serious opening inaccuracy here with queen e2. I think queen c2 we got to remember is actually the move here, because then it allows us to put something on e3 where we're not struggling for dear life. The one notably good thing about the queen on e2 was it was making c4 harder to play. But I don't know how much that matters. So I like g4 here. I also like knight e1. b3 doesn't look so bad. Trying to fianchetto. Yeah, again, as we're seeing, like, it's kind of annoying that our queen's here instead. Let's go knight back. This knight back. And then I'll bring this knight to f1, just to cover e4, so I can trade off a pair of rooks if I need to. I think that would kind of equalize some pressure on the d-file here. So let's see how they play this. We're kind of like shuffling our pieces in a weird way. Luckily, the position is closed enough where I think like maybe the time doesn't matter as much. Of course, it's something that we should still care about. But that's also an important thing to note. So, knight to f1 now. Looks good. They're going to probably trade. I'd imagine they would trade here. And now we can't really go queen c2 because they have bishop b3 in the position. Oh, they go c4. That's actually really strange. Maybe their idea is to bring the knight to b3. But I'm not sure how good that is. If I play bishop a3 myself here, that forces something, some sort of answer from our opponents. And I don't think any of their answers are good. If they go queen b3 or if they go really anywhere else. Maybe queen b3 is interesting, but bishop c5, I think this trade favors me. I could also go to g5 now, which is a funny looking idea. Bishop g5, and all of a sudden they have to go back to e7. Yeah, let's do that. A little strange, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Kind of like gaining a move. I do want to be cautious here because I feel like my opponent's been playing extremely well. And now, especially since they don't have knight d7 to c5 because their bishop's there, I'm kind of extra happy about making this maneuver. After bishop to e7, I'm thinking knight to e3. I can finally get that knight there, the pony. And I think I'm really happy about that. Because once the knight gets to e3, I'm looking at knight f5 again. I'm not really looking at knight d5 anytime soon, just because there's a big problem with it where knight takes d5 defends the bishop. I don't know how to explain that from my opponent though. Yeah, I think that was just like a mental mouse up, I guess. Where it's like, you know, like you see a move and it's like, oh yeah, like b2 is like kind of weak, and then you think about it for a little bit and then you just like forget that it's defended. You know it's defended. They didn't take it for a while, but then at some point they were just like, oh yeah, now I can take it. Which happens to everybody. That's really unfortunate though. Because my opponent was putting up good, really, really good pressure against me here. Regardless, I think we are winning now after knight takes f6 check. And then rook takes d8. I'll play f4 just to open things up a little bit. We're looking at moves like f5, queen f2. We're just trying to go for checkmate at this point. We have a lot of material. Generally, when you have a lot of material, you can start looking for those checkmates. So queen g3, king h6, and then rook g8 will threaten queen h4 checkmate. I don't really see a good way to stop it. I'm not sure if they will try anything here. Yeah, f5, I guess, is reasonable. I'll just push e5 to prevent king f6, and then I still have the same threat idea of going queen g3 and rook g8 here. And that looks like it's actually going to happen. And now queen g5 is playable, actually. Now that f6 isn't covered. So I'll just checkmate in one, actually. So this was a really interesting one. I would say the big thing to mention in this is, hey, what's going on structurally and what happened in the opening are the two biggest lessons that we can take away. So I'm going to try to summarize these a little bit quicker in the postmortem because I feel like maybe I go on a little too long. So yeah, if you play something like knight d4, you gotta go into it with knight takes f3. Otherwise, why do you play this move if you're just gonna go back? Again, just wasting two moves here, playing a move and then retreating. You might think you're provoking something. c3 is something that people want to play anyways, so it's not a provocation whatsoever. And again, just looking at the quality of the two central squares, we can confidently say that white might be fighting for an advantage long term anyways. And then, yeah, around here, develop your pieces, man. It's not that hard to just play bishop g5 and just say, I'm developed. But I make it difficult for myself, and this is a problem. This is a serious problem. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to continue to try to develop as much as we can, just moving on and everything like that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully there was lots to learn from that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.